report leak. And he also seemed to be test driving a new midterm message. Here's his response.
What are the next things that are going to be attacked? Because this MAGA crowd is really the most extreme political organization that's existed in American history, in recent American history.
It wasn't the first reference to MAGA that he made during these remarks, so definitely sort of a new framing that the White House is signaling. The president's concerns come on the heels of an election night in Ohio, first big midterm primary in a battleground state. Abortion quickly is moving to the top of voters' minds, marking what could be a potentially seismic shift in this year's contest. So, I have a pretty good expert panel on set with me right now to discuss all these developments. NBC correspondent Ali Vitelli is here, David Frum, staff writer for The Atlantic, and Cornell Belcher, Democratic strategist and an MSNBC political analyst. Let's get into this. Cornell, I want to start with you and sort of what you took away from Ohio yesterday, specifically. The Democratic turnout is what jumps out at me compared to the Republican turnout. It seems like a flashing yellow light.
No, that's not what I take from it, because there was really no competitive Democratic sort of statewide. I mean, Tim Ryan was going to win.
Gubernatorial race was there was a lot of money spent in the gubernatorial primary, for what it's worth.
So you don't see, I didn't see that sort of energy sort of in the contested races on the D side. What I do take from the R side, and I think is going to be, I think is counterintuitive from a lot of conversations. There's a conversation that the Trump guy won, and Trump's endorsement took him across the finish line. Trump guy didn't get a third of the vote, right? I think there's a way to look at this that certainly Trump is a mobilizer on the right in a general election, but I still think if you're Trump's endorsed guy in Georgia, you're looking at the Trump's endorsement not getting a third of the vote in Ohio and going, I don't know how much power he actually has to mobilize and move his vote in a primary. I know how he can do it in a general election, but I'm not so sure about a primary.
David Frum, what do you take away?
I take away that the Democrats are maybe at risk of deluding themselves about the power of the abortion issue to help them. What the abortion issue does is it drives intensity among the most committed Democrats. It'll raise money. It'll boost turnout in all kinds of districts that the Democrats always win easily. But it risks tilting the whole party away from the issues that are going to matter in the parts of the country where control of the House and Senate will be decided, back to the parts of the country where the Democrats win easily anyway. And they may find themselves talking about what they care about and losing sight of the old Haley Barbour rule. The main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing.
So, Ali, this is where I'm curious about the Biden messaging today, because this is something I think a lot of Democrats have been looking for. Like, look, at the end of the day, they all want a message, but he's got to deliver it.
Yeah.
Trying to basically create a referendum on the other side. Make it a choice, not a referendum on his side. This seemed to be step one.
It seemed to be step one, but the question he was asked was, what are you going to do next? And he didn't actually answer the question, because there's not really a next step to take here. Yes, the Biden administration is looking into things that they might be able to do on the federal level through the agency level. But when you get to the Hill, the conversations I've been having with senators for the last day and a half have been, okay, they want to do a vote on some version of the Women's Health Protection Act. But the reality is nothing has changed since the last time they did that, when it failed. And the Republicans are making it, frankly, a little bit hard to make this a referendum because of the way that they have messaged on this. They have at every turn pivoted away from talking about the substance of this draft opinion and instead turned to talking about the leak as itself.
By the way, I think that's so telling.
Of course.
Joni Ernst today with Hugh Hewitt. I was reading
Stunning.
I mean, she couldn't have run away faster from
and
these
she's a
specifics of the
co-sponsor
issue.
on multiple pro-life bills.
There are so many elected Republicans that are scared of the total ban.
But Chuck, that's telling, right? And McConnell didn't want any parts of this yesterday. But that's very telling, because look, there's very few times we have a dynamic changing moment in a midterm, and you know this, right? The dynamics of a midterm are what they are. Rare. Bush, 9/11.
Yeah.
Could this be a dynamic changing moment? Look, we talk about Ohio. Ohio is a state where you didn't see the Democrats open up a gender gap the way we did nationwide, right? Nationwide, Democrats are winning women voters by better than 10 points. In Ohio, it was only 3 points. It becomes very interesting. I know your point is that, let's talk about something else. But if you're a woman today and they are stripping your rights away from you to control your body, I'm sorry, but that's the thing.
See, this is what I was warning about 90 seconds ago. The reason the Republicans are running away from the abortion issue is not because they're scared that their side is unpopular, although perhaps their side is unpopular. They're running away from it because they know the election is about food prices. It's about gas prices. It's maybe about
if the election is about food prices, they win in a walk.
Right. But if the Democrats are going to say, okay, we don't want to talk about food prices. We want to talk about the threat to abortion rights, and you are not so you are making the same mistake or in danger of it as the Republicans are trying to avoid, and you may not have any choice because you're going to have so much money, so much energy in the activist part of the party pushing the Democrats to talk about the wrong things.
Here's why I disagree. Is the mobilization, energy and mobilization is the problem that Democrats have. If you look at young voters, you look at voters of color, and you look at certain segments of women.
That's
voters,
what Alito just potentially does big time for.
Right.
Yeah.
It is not that there's more voters on the Republican side. You know, there's an ebb and a flow, and you see the flow back in the midterms. This is an opportunity for Democrats to mobilize and energize a group of young voters and a group of women voters in a way that no other issue that we have. They're not mobilizing and marching because of gas prices.
But you're not going to be able to know that until you actually get to November, right? Because I think for the last 49 years, most of those young women have been under the impression that this is not something that they even have to worry about because it was settled precedent. And so I think, to your point, Republicans are able to run away from it because they know that they're not earning any points on this. But for Democrats, it's an unproven theory of whether or not it will actually electrify voters, who, by the way, Democrats are lagging in the enthusiasm.
I assure you, we're not going to let Republicans run away from this issue. I assure you that there will be millions. Women's groups have already put up front, we're going to put $150 million behind this.
That was even before.
They are not going to be able to run away from this issue.
Yeah.
And that may be exactly, they're not running away from the issue, they're running to the issue that just puts them on the train to nowhere in an election that is going to be about food prices and gas prices.
I disagree.
Look, Cornell, how would you, you've got to address voters' concerns.
Yes.
Where they're at. And you can't just do, so how would you do both?
But you got to be able to chew gum and walk at the same time.
Right, but how would you do it in this case?
Yes, you can talk about pocketbook issues, which every Democrat can talk about health care issues, talk about that. But at the same point, you can still mobilize voters. Look, it's not that very difficult. It's hope and fear. In the end, you can either get hope or fear, right? And
we're in fear politics right now.
Yeah.
Well, fear politics got Democrats, the House and Senate in 18. The House in 18, and fear politics got him the White House, and fear politics got Trump the White House.
I'm not putting a value judgment on it, Chuck. I'm not putting a value judgment. I'm just saying realistically. I worked for a guy who gave hope, right? You mobilize around
the last guy that ran on and successfully won on hope.
Republicans have been driving fear. Tribalism is about driving fear of the other. Here's an opportunity for Democrats to actually put some fear in women voters that their rights are going to be taken away.
David, here's the sort of the analytical way I look at this, is that the Democrats now have their fear message. Republicans already had their fear message. Mm-hmm. And if this is our politics right now, which is grievance and fear are what fire voters up, then the playing field might have gotten more level.
Except the party coalitions are not symmetrical. The Democratic coalition is bigger, but is made up of more pieces. Mm-hmm. The Republican coalition is smaller, it's made up of fewer pieces. So it is much easier for Republicans to deliver a cohesive, let's be mad at them issue. Democrats can't do that because many in the Democratic case, many of them are us.
Well, Biden was just trying to do that.
But it's not going to work because you cannot make you cannot drive the Democratic coalition as if it were the Republican coalition. You have to understand it's a bigger, more shambling entity with many more pieces, and it has many more culturally conservative parts than the Republican coalition has culturally liberal parts.
I can agree with that.
Outside the court yesterday, voters repeatedly were saying Biden needs to do something. Democrats need to do something. I do think that if there's nothing to be done, which is the case, then you do sort of run into the issue of Democrats for the last several years have been saying, give us the majorities and we will give you these protections, these expansions to health care, whatever. Now they've come up at a place where they have the majorities, technically, and I know that we all understand how the filibuster works, but a lot of voters just look at it and say, well, we gave you the majorities, and you're not giving us the things that you said that we were going to do. And so I do sort of wonder at what point that's a law of diminishing returns, if you can only ask for the majority so many times and not deliver.
Really quickly, I can agree with you that there's a lot more pieces, but there's a thing called narrowcasting, and I think Democrats can narrowcast to voters who are in fact less energized around these other pieces, and this is a way to narrowcast, particularly around younger voters, particularly around younger women voters, about their rights being taken away that can absolutely be used to mobilize.
One thing that hasn't changed, I'm curious if you guys agree with this, the swing voter in American politics hasn't changed. It's a non-college educated white woman and a college educated white man. Do you agree?
I don't care.
Yeah, no, meaning this issue, it's sort of like, it's still the same swing voters,
Yeah.
almost no matter the issue.
But I don't believe in swing vote anymore. I don't. It's so polarized. I don't believe in swing vote. I think and I think Republicans actually get this. The side that energizes and turns out their vote the most is going to be the side that wins. I think we spend
Somebody has to win. The persuadable middle will decide.
So small, Chuck.
Right, but it decides 5 states.
And Democrats.
I don't know if that's true.
And Democrats need to remember that while their party is bigger, their base is smaller. So if you're doing turnout politics, that goes to the Republican advantage, not the Democratic advantage.
Millennials are the largest voting bloc in the United States right now, potentially. They're the largest voting bloc. When they vote overwhelmingly Democratic.
Heard this three cycles.
Yeah.
And you know what? Worked for Biden. It worked in 2018, and it got Barack Obama the back-to-back majorities.
This is a conversation that's not going to end. Thank you, all 3 of you. And before we go to break, we have some important COVID developments. The CDC